Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
I am Squeaky Wheel Pottery. I started clay when I was a little kid. My dad used to have a pottery studio here, and he made all these bird feeders and different things. And clay is all a whole bunch of different platelets like this in there, and by wedging it, it takes all those platelets and organizes them. Once they're organized, then they'll make a nice flow when you go to throw it on the wheel. Clay likes to flow like mud or water, and it flows through your fingers to go up to make a vessel. So by organizing the platelets like that, it really helps with the river of clay or the flow. So there's these holes in the wheel head, and these bolts just stick through them, and then one of these nice little round boards. This is going to be a Ugly Face whiskey jug. I just push in with my left hand and give it some counter pressure with the right one, and it kind of naturally just finds its center. Now this is going to be the very bottom of my pot, so I want to make sure I know where I'm going to have a bottom when I'm finally done. Well, if I open too far with it, when I go to cut it off the bat with the wire tool, there won't be a bottom in it. It'll have a big hole. I got it open pretty nice now, and I still got this pretty straight. I want to give it some good counter pressure to really compress the bottom. If you don't get the bottom nice and compressed, there ends up being a crack. Kind of goes back to dealing with the clay platelets and how, you know, it doesn't matter how much you wedge them, you're still not going to get them all going in the right direction or working together. I don't know if you ever really master it. You know, like I say, I started as a little kid, but doing clay and clay sculptures, and didn't really start doing wheel throwing until I went to college. So I'd probably say I've probably been throwing now for almost 10 years. Now the top has a little bit of a wobble in it, and I'll just cut that off. And to stiffen that up a little bit, I'll use a little bit of fire. Or that hardness on the outside really acts like an armature in keeping this pot stand upright. Because this will now become the top of the pot, the part that's on the back. This part will intersect with what I already have. This was a little bigger ball than the first ball. I kind of work this clay up, kind of more wedging. Get those molecules going in the right direction. Not bad. Now I almost have two pots that I turned into one. Now this is kind of thick at the top, but down in the middle, it's, you know, about so thick. So what I want to do now is I want to torch that lower part, and then I can throw the top again. I model a lot of my Ugly Face whiskey jugs after the southern whiskey jugs done around the 1800s, primarily by black potters. But there have been face jugs and jugs like this done in the Middle Ages, and the ones done around the 1800s, there was a belief that they held a spiritual significance for the artists that threw them. Some stories went that the potters would throw these jugs and fill them full of whiskey, put them on a grave or a burial mound, and if the jug went undisturbed for a whole year, then the soul had passed to the next world without any disturbance. There's other stories that say that potters put these ugly faces on jugs to keep the children from sipping the whiskey for fear their face would turn and they would look like the creature on the jug. This is going to be that neck now for that one. It fits between those calipers, so that's good, because this pot is going to shrink 14% between now and when it's all the way finished. So cut that off. The soap makes the water more slippery, and with the water more slippery, you're able to get by using less water. The less water you use, the less fatigued your clay will get. Now I usually like to grind some big lines into this just to give it some visual interest right here at the throat. Some would say those are throw marks, or but I like the way they give it some visual, a little more visual interest right here at the neck. And soften it up a little bit with my sponge. I'm scoring this. I got this special little fork that I found at a thrift store. It's just like perfect for doing this. Now this is porcelain. And I use porcelain for the teeth and the eyeballs so that it's white when it's fired. I sell a lot of my stuff by going to different craft shows. I've really just recently started getting into Renaissance festivals, and I really like those. The type of thing that I do seems to fit real well. It's, it's a lot of fun to get dressed up like an old medieval person and talk the language, and just to be a part of it. It's just something that's so much different than a normal art fair. Make a big coil here for that upper lip. I also, sell to some galleries, sell a significant amount online. Even the stuff I sell to some of the galleries, they seem to do pretty well selling it online. Kind of just sculpting it back and forth as I'm going there, trying to make it conform over the tops of those teeth, trying to make a real interesting edge. Just smoothing it out. I'm only smoothing this out on the back side away from the teeth. Leaves me that nice rounded edge by the teeth, it maintains that look of a lip. Now I go over this with a sponge. Some of that where I was pushing it out, there was thick and thin. Really gotten into this, carving the line in there. Gives it a little more depth. I think that makes it pretty interesting when you get it like that. So I'm just trying to make some cheeks here. More of a defined cheek where all the teeth were. Something that helps blend that all together is if you get some lines coming down into it, matching up with those lines before from the lower jaw. I'm going to try to get this one pointed down a little more. Both sides of this jug shouldn't be the same. Most people don't. When they smile, one side is higher or lower, or bigger or smaller than the other side. And I try to echo that a lot when I do these jugs. I spend a lot of time really studying different people's faces. No individual jug is modeled after one individual person. I want to give it some definition here by the nose. Disfigurements are starting to become more interesting to me. Disfigurements are moles and warts and things like that. On this side, the nose ends up being a pretty big addition, so I got to do a bunch of scoring to get it to attach good, stay on there. By the time the nose gets done, I'll probably end up with it out a good couple inches from the face of this piece. Trying my best to make this guy look happy. I don't know what it is, but I end up making so many of them that look so sad or mean or something. It looks pretty happy, but I keep telling myself, make a happy jug. Don't let him get sad looking. This piece will go to leather hard, and then I will bisque fire it, which means I'll fire it to about 1800 degrees. At that point, the clay won't dissolve in water anymore. It's been fired hot enough that it's changed. They call that a quartz inversion has taken place. And get that point up there. If you're going to start this as a hobby, take a class somewhere. Trying to get started into this on your own. There's some pretty basic things that a person should really take a class to learn, one of which is firing a kiln. If you don't know how to fire your kilns, you'll never end up with any pottery that you'll get to keep. And just what you would want to do and what you'd want to get into, if you took a class, it would immerse you in so many different firing techniques and surfaces, different things that you could do. You know, I mean, I suppose you can learn it from a book or a videotape too, but definitely taking a class would be how I would suggest it. It's hard to make something look random. That's probably about the hardest thing with doing these faces, is you get to something like hair and you know, either eyebrows or mustaches, or sometimes I even put hair on the top of the piece to give it that look where it's random, like hair. Hair is pretty random. But then when I finally put the pupil in, I should kind of get it like this. And then this next one should be same or similar. I've seen potters put stamps at the base of their handle. Sometimes down here at the base of the handle, I'll make this little eyeball, kind of a punctuation that a person probably wasn't expecting. The thing I like most about pottery is it's so wide, it's so vast. There's so many different things you can do, all the way from different forming techniques to different glazes and firings. Everything you do has an impact on the final end piece. Ta-da!
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.